All right, everybody awake? I mean, we started off with selfies. I don't think that's ever happened in church before. And if anybody tells Pastor Fran, he's going to, well, we'll see. We'll just send, everybody text your selfies to Pastor Fran and Sharon. We'll see what happens. So that ought to be interesting. So I have a question for you. Who here is perfect? Absolutely perfect. Who here is perfect? Oh, we got one. No, seriously, which one of you is perfect? Come on. Out of how many people have we got here today? Where'd Diane sneak off to? She snuck out. I don't see her. How many people we got here today? Probably 20, 30? How did that one person has to be perfect? That's 30 people. Somebody's got to be perfect. No? I know I'm not perfect. I joke that sometimes I'm so close it's scary, but Ruthie would debate that point quickly. She would point out how flawed I am. So, no one? No one here is perfect?
I thought I was wrong.
I was going to say the opposite. I thought I was imperfect once, but I was wrong. You know? Well, you know, if none of us here is perfect, why is it we expect others to be? Why do we expect others to be perfect? I know what everyone's thinking. A lot of people are thinking it. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people are thinking is, I don't expect anyone else to be perfect. Certainly, we all do, though. We get mad at people when they're not perfect. We get mad at people over the simplest things. The simplest of things will trigger us to get mad at each other. But we're all perfect or imperfect, so why do we do that? If somebody cuts you off in traffic, do you get mad at them?
Not since your sermon a couple years ago.
I still do. I get a little irritated. And I sit there and force myself and go, Lord, don't let me get mad at them. Lord, don't let me get mad at them. Just let go of the steering wheel. Don't let me get mad at them. Don't completely let go of the steering wheel, but loosen up my grip a little bit. But have you ever cut anybody off yourself accidentally? I have. Accidentally gone, oh, didn't see that one in my blind spot as they laid on the horn at me, but I still get mad at other people. So why do we do that? Have you ever been mad at somebody else for forgetting something that you considered important? Or felt let down because somebody didn't call you to say something when you felt they should? Maybe, do you know, wow, I completely lost my place. Do you know who really catches the brunt of other people's expectations of that sort of thing? Of expecting others to be there for them and, oh, you didn't show up at my kid's birthday party. I'm mad at you. But maybe later I'll have missed your kid's birthday party because I had something else on my schedule or something. But you know what really catches the brunt of it a lot of times? Church leaders. Church leaders. People expect church leadership to be there for them at the drop of a hat. Am I right? But what we often forget is our leadership has lives too. They have lives. They make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But we all can't be there for everybody every time. I posted to Facebook a while back a lyric from the song Save My Life. It goes like this. I'm the pastor at your church. For all these years you've listened to my words. You think I know all the answers. By the way, I'm not going to sing this because you don't want that. But I've got doubts and questions too. Behind this smile, I'm really just like you. Afraid and tired and insecure. We're all the same. Me standing up here doesn't make me any different from when I'm sitting down there. Just means instead you're looking at me instead of me looking at someone else up here. We're all the same, and sometimes we forget this. These words hit me because we expect perfection out of people when they are in a position of authority. And that's not just church leadership, that's anybody. A police officer, you expect perfection out of them. Government, politicians, everybody, we expect perfection out of them, but we know we're not perfect. So how can we hold them to such a standard that we don't hold ourselves to? We also think that they need to be there for us. And they try as hard as they can. Trust me. They all try there as hard as they can, but they have demands on them as well. They own homes that break. Because we all own homes that break. They have family engagements as well. And this is what keeps a lot of potential leaders from stepping up. It makes a lot of them walk away. How many people do you think are afraid to step up because they know sooner or later they're going to disappoint somebody? Now, please don't misunderstand me and think that I'm implying that this is why Pastor Fran is retiring. Because it's not. But imagine how much easier we can make our leaders' lives if we were just a little more understanding. If we were just a little more patient with people. And not just our leaders, but everybody in general. If we were more patient with our neighbors. That's kind of why we joked and we decided to do the selfie this morning. So that maybe next time, you think about that of somebody in church, because inevitably, somebody will upset you at some point. It's life. We are all flawed. We are all human. Somebody sitting next to you I don't care if it's your spouse. They will upset you at some point in time. Most of you are looking at me like, duh. But everybody here will upset you at some point in time. They will say something that may come out wrong. They'll post something on Facebook that you'll disagree with. So today, after that really long lead-in, I want to talk to you about judging. And I don't mean judging others' sins, because we all know you can judge the sin but not the person. But I'm talking about judging others' mistakes. Or even maybe it's not a mistake, but you just weren't their priority at the moment. There are some times you're not going to be everybody's priority. It's a fact of life. Do you want to be? Of course, we all want to be the priority, but there are times you're not going to be. And sometimes we take judging to only mean not judging another's sins. But we overlook not judging another's slights when they slight you. And slight is such a funny word. When used in context, it means to treat someone with indifference, ignore, or especially pointed or contemptuously, to snub them. But then there's the other definition. Small in amount, small in a degree. So when somebody slights you or upsets you, it means small. It means it's really no big deal. It was probably accidental. It can't be an accident that a word for offending somebody also means something small. Someone did something small to you and now you're really mad at them. Even contemplating how to get even, possibly, by skipping their next event. Oh, they missed my kid's birthday party, so I'm not going to theirs. Because that was just rude. They should have been there for me. Have you ever been mad when someone forgot to do something, but you forgot to do the same thing yourself to them? We've all been guilty of it at some point in time. We've been mad at somebody because they did something to us, but if you really thought hard enough, you can probably think of an occasion where you might have done that same thing. Or maybe somebody missed an event, like I said, that was important to you, but you've done the same thing to somebody else. Matthew 7:1-5 says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured upon you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye, and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." We all take this to mean sins. We all take that to think of, oh, they're sinning, and we must point out that they're sinning, even though I'm sinning. Because we're all sinning, let's be honest. There's not a one of us who doesn't sin, because we're human. We were cast out of Eden. We're going to make mistakes, we're going to sin. But what about mistakes? Somebody accidentally makes a mistake. A mistake is not necessarily a sin, it can be an oversight. Why do we hold others to higher standards than we hold ourselves? We shouldn't. And we know we shouldn't, but we still do. So the quickest thing we can do, even though we know we're going to do it, because again, we're flawed and we're going to make that mistake ourselves and be mad at somebody, the best bet is just forgive. Be upset, but forgive them and move on. Think about the parable of the unmerciful servant. Then Peter came to Jesus, not the Jesus, but well, I guess the Jesus too would be appropriate. There's only one. So then Peter came to Jesus and asked, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?" Jesus answered, "I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him." 10,000 bags of gold. It's a lot of gold even by today's standards. "Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had to be sold to repay the debt. At this, the servant fell on his knees before him. 'Be patient with me,' he begged, 'and I will pay back everything.' The servant's master took pity on him, canceled the debt, and let him go. But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and began to choke him. 'Pay back what you owe me,' he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, 'Be patient with me, and I will pay it back.' But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. When the other servants saw what happened, they were outraged and went and told the master everything that had happened. Then the master called the servant in. 'You wicked servant,' he said, 'I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you?' In anger, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured, until he should pay back all he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart. Think about it. We do this all the time. We want forgiveness for our mistakes, but we aren't necessarily so quick to forgive others who have made a mistake against us. We hold that grudge. And we've all, can anybody here think of a time where they didn't make a mistake for somebody else? Didn't screw up and maybe leave somebody hanging or weren't there for somebody else? Or, can anybody think of a time they didn't do that nobody's ever done that? So in essence, we all admit that we are flawed, but we want to hold others to a higher standard than we hold ourselves. Particularly leadership. Our bosses. Have you ever been late to work? Anybody here? Everybody's been late to work. Okay, good. Has your boss ever been late to work? Did you give your boss dirty looks when they were late to work? Did they give you a hard time when you were late to work, maybe? No? Lucky. I'm trading. Some bosses, I don't know. Maybe it was an army thing. You miss formation, you're out. You just. But we all hold each other to a higher standard than we'll hold ourselves. Now we can hold them to what is morally right. Don't get me wrong. You catch them sinning and you can hold them to that standard. But we must be ready to forgive their mistakes. And that's one last situation. I think that's the last page. Who here has ever had a special event they hosted, like a birthday party or graduation party for their kid, or maybe even a big barbecue at their house? Anybody here? Anybody ever held some sort of event?
Oh, yeah.
Did everyone show up that you wanted to show up? Was there anybody that you were particularly upset maybe that they didn't show up? Somebody that you really wanted to be there, maybe a family member or something like that? Because I've seen it a few times, especially with kids' birthday parties, am I right? Parents can admit it.
Oh, yeah.
You had a birthday party for the kids and some family member didn't make it. And you were kind of like, I made your kid's birthday party. Why couldn't you make it to mine? Be honest, can you ever think of a time where you ever were upset to somebody close to you because they weren't there for you? Did you ever think of maybe what they had going on that they couldn't be there? Usually we're just too focused on ourselves. We think about, we got our blinders on. Me, 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 me. It's all about me. Now ask yourself, have you been there for everybody every time they needed you? We haven't. Is it possible that there's somebody out there who may be upset with you or may have been upset with you for not being there for them? Maybe somebody asked you a favor, but you had a previous engagement. We've all had that one. Hey, can you come help me move? Oh, dude, I've got this going on. I was asked to help somebody today, but I was like, oh, sorry, I'm giving a sermon at church. Trust me, they immediately went, oh, okay, you're good. Kind of get a buy on that one immediately. But could somebody else be upset with you because you're not perfect? So I think we've all been guilty of it at some time or another. I think the next time it happens, maybe we should look for that plank in our own eye. Look for that plank in your eye before you reach for the speck in the other. We're all going to make mistakes. Other people are going to make mistakes with us. We're going to get angry. Why? Because we're flawed. We're not perfect. The only thing we can do is forgive. Forgive, move on. And even if they don't forgive you, it doesn't matter. You've made the effort. You can't control what somebody else does. But if you forgive them, you can move on from it. They may not be able to. And hopefully they can eventually. But as long as you've done your part, that's all that matters. So when we think of not judging others, think about it not just of sin. Think of it as mistakes. Because we all make them. We're all going to let each other down sometime. We're all going to upset somebody near us. We're all going to say something. Even if it wasn't something that's to you. Maybe somebody just says something that you disagree with. And you're like, oh. Especially on Facebook, social media. We see it all the time. We disagree with somebody. We're like, I'm unfriending you. I was going to say, it's not how any of this works, for those who have seen that commercial. It's not how this works. Forgive them and move on. Amen.